Alright YouTube, today we're going to be starting a new channel, and in this first series I'm going to show you how to unlock your car with an iPhone. Now there's a couple key players in action here, the first being an iPhone, the second being a car. Now the third is a key fob that's going to be compatible with the car you own, and the fourth is a Bluetooth module that we're going to be creating in part 2, so stick around for that. Now the concept at work here is that we're going to be using a phone to connect and pair with this Bluetooth module that will then drive the key fob. We're going to stick the key fob and the Bluetooth module as one piece inside your car. And from there on out, you can connect to it with your phone and send commands to your key fob with your phone. So in order to do this, the first step we've really got to take is figuring out how the key fob works. If we want to control the key fob with our Bluetooth module, we have to be able to send it the correct control signals. And that's why in this first video we're going to be starting out with how to do a little reverse engineering to figure out exactly what signals we need to send the key fob. So let's get into it and head down to my workshop. Alright, so we're down in the workshop and we're going to grab a couple tools. A screwdriver, a multimeter, and a key fob compatible with your car. Alright, we've got our tools laid out and we're ready to start. First thing, let's get rid of this pesky package. So we've got our key fob right here, right? And we're going to take the screwdriver and we're going to put it right in there and we're just going to crack it open. Boom. We've got our battery here and that's the first thing we're going to look at. We can see that the battery's voltage is 3 volts. That already tells us some important stuff. So this circuit is going to run on 3 volts. So that's something we've got to consider when we are building our Bluetooth module. I'm going to go ahead and pull this rubber piece right out with the circuit board and everything. We're going to throw the plastic to the side. Now this is what we want. We're going to remove the circuit from the rubber. We can see here what we're working with. We've got our 4 buttons that each do something specific to the car, and we can find the labels right here on this rubber piece. And we've got to figure out how we're going to control these buttons with electronics versus like using your finger to actually push the button. Because the whole idea of this is to do it wirelessly through your phone. So we're going to start by holding it up to the light, and you can start to make out the circuit inside. Now this is actually sandwiched between 2 PCBs, so we don't have direct access to all of the circuit. We will note here something else on the battery. We can see that, so obviously there's 2 different sides to this, but this flat side with all the information appears to be positive. We might then observe that the battery with the positive side on the outside would go into the circuit just like that. Alright, with this side thing touching the side of the battery, aka the positive terminal, and this flat thing over here touching the negative side of the terminal. So from this we can determine that this is positive and this is negative. Now it's important because if we flip it over, we can see 2 soldering locations right here and right here. We can use these as our ground as we're probing this circuit. Now that we've got our multimeter on and set to DC voltage, we can begin probing this circuit. Alright, so after you hold your PCB up to the light and you get a good view of the circuit and what's connected to the ground and what's not, you can begin taking measurements to figure out what's what. I think the best way to do this is with the only way to do this is with the battery in. So we're going to go ahead and put the battery right in here. And we're going to stick our PCB right on top. Now it's not going to be super stable, so we're going to have to slam it down on the desk there. So you're going to have to hold it down on the desk. And we're going to really have to hold it down with our probe. Next, you're going to pick out the point you thought was best to measure. And you can see here, we're getting a voltage of 3 volts. I mean, approximately. Alright, so what does this tell us? I traced this particular point on the PCB to be connected to this IC right here on the card. So I also measured this point at 3 volts relative to the ground. So what this is telling me is that this IC, however it's set up, is holding this button at it's holding this button at 3 volts in the inactive state. So what this means is that this IC accepts an active low signal. So upon pressing the button, this 3 volts that's at the front of the button comes to the back of the button and follows its way down to the ground, bringing whatever pin this is connected to on the IC to 0. When this IC receives the 0, that's when it knows that it should send the unlock command or whatever. This is actually the lock button right here. When the particular pin that this button is connected to on the IC goes to 0, that's when the key fob knows to send the signal to lock the car. And if you go around the rest of these buttons, you'll find very similar things. This is all an active low signal. When we're going to be building the Bluetooth module, we're going to need to solder on to these connections on the button, and we're going to need to power this, and we're going to need to ground this card. So we're going to need 6 wires coming from this card in total. Now we have information about how to drive the key fob. If we don't want it to do anything, we keep each of these 4 control wires at 3 volts. When we want the key fob to do any one of these buttons, we bring that control signal wire down to 0 volts. We ground it. And that's why it's important to have this ground connected into your circuit. Have everything share a ground. Alright, that pretty much wraps it up for this video. In the next video, we're going to add the control wires to the key fob, give them a quick test, and we're going to start to build the Bluetooth module. So join me for part 2, and if you like this video, give it a like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for watching.